You're really here to see me getting hurt? I can't believe it. Hey guys, welcome to the high ground. My name is Fabio, and today we're looking at 3 accidents that I personally had in the mountains. Now, as many of you might know, I trained to become a Swiss mountain guide. I was in the Swiss mountain guide courses, then got actually sidelined by one of the injuries we are talking about today. So I spent a lot of time in the mountain, roughly 200 days per year. And if you do that during an extended amount of time, and if you really try to push the limit, then you can hardly avoid something happening. Now, I'm very glad that nothing bad happened, at least not too bad. I'm still here. Other people didn't have that much luck. And yeah, I want to take the lessons from my experiences, show you some pictures, and also let you know what I would do differently. Now, fair warning in advance. I will show you some pictures and film clips of my accidents. Some of them funny, some of them maybe a teachable moment, but some of them will also be a little bit gory. Especially towards the end of the video, I have quite a bit of bloody stuff. So if you can't take that, I will warn you again, but just so that you know, maybe keep your kids away from this video. Okay, so the first accident I'd like to talk about is also the one with the least consequences. I was ice climbing in a quite nice ice climbing area in Switzerland. I was just leading a pitch. I was maybe 3 or 4 meters above the last protection. And you don't want to fall when you ice climb anyway. Now, to actually get to the next belay, that we wanted to build to be out of the way for falling debris for the upcoming pitches, I had to traverse to the right. Unfortunately, in the midst of the waterfall that we were climbing was a streak of cauliflower ice. I will show you a picture of the streak right here. You can even see it from afar. And cauliflower ice is a type of ice that develops on a waterfall if it is already frozen, but you still have water dripping onto it, not a constant flow, but it basically looks like cauliflowers. It often has a lot of air in it, and it's not super nice to climb on. On the opposite, it can actually be quite dangerous. Of course, super rad ice climbers still climb it. I try to avoid it. And since that streak was only maybe this wide, let's say 80 centimeters, I just thought, well, I'll be on one side of the streak and then just go over to the other side, put in an ice screw, and then continue straight up. Now, let me get these things here and show you what actually happened from my perspective. So I was up in the ice with this ice axe, right? And I wanted to go to my right side and basically hammer in the ice axe here, step over with my feet, then go over, take this one with me, and that's it. And what actually happened is that suddenly my feet came loose and I was not anymore holding on to this ice axe, but this ice axe was in the midst of the cauliflower ice. And it was roughly on that height, and I was holding onto it and tried to get in my feet. And it was sitting on a big bulb of ice. It was not hammered in, but it was really just stuck there. I was hammering in my feet, and suddenly it made a plop, and the bulb of ice broke. And what I did, I hit myself in the face with the backside of the ice tool. Luckily, I only chipped a tooth. This one here, well, I have had it redone by my dentist. And luckily, I only chipped my teeth, nothing more happened. You can see that on this picture that I'm showing to you right now. But why did that happen? Well, it was a mistake that I made. I mean, we could say if something like that happens, it's always a mistake by the climber, but I think that's not fair to a lot of people out there. But this one was purely my mistake. So I have my ice climbing boot here, and I climb with monopoints. That means I have one spike in front, and that's the one that you punch into the ice. And then the next two points are basically resting on the ice, and you have the stability. That generally holds quite well. But one thing that you cannot do with that is that you start turning your foot. You can turn your hip, you can turn your upper body, but if you turn your foot, you will basically push the front out of the ice, and then you will immediately fall. And that's actually what happened to me, because I was leaning over there, I was turning in my hip to get over the cauliflower ice. Um, and there I must have moved my foot, and yeah, it just popped off. And since I was basically standing on it, I was falling pretty hard. That ice tool came loose. I think I already lost it when I fell. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think I immediately lost it. I was holding on to the second ice tool, and yeah, that one popped. So this was the first accident that happened to me. It is also the one that, from a feeling perspective, it was the most spectacular one, because I fell for, I mean, I was 3 or 4 meters above the last screw, right? And I took a pendulum fall of therefore 8 meters, so 24 foot, onto an ice screw. The ice screw luckily held. Um, Afterwards, I was basically on the same line as my belayer. I actually had to pendle over to him, get his ice tool, finish a pitch, right? Build a belay so that I can get him up so that we can rappel down, because we knew we wouldn't continue with that route right now. So it was a scary fall. Luckily, nothing too bad happened. I had my tooth fixed, and then I was back at it. The second accident I'd like to talk about is actually the one that put my mountain guide exam on hold. It was already late in spring, or late in winter, very early in spring, depending on how you want to see it. I think it was March or April. Um, and I had a winter beyond me with a lot of skiing, a lot of ski touring, weeks at a time out in the mountains. And I was pretty worn out. But still, I mean, skiing on a sunny day is always nice. And I was skiing down a hill, so we were free riding. The snow was wet snow, so it was spring snow. Um, and well, I didn't find it to be too big of an issue, but of course, a small mistake in skiing technique can get you in a lot of troubles. Namely, in that type of snow, if you lean back too much, right, you don't have control over your skis anymore, and they just go. And what happened there is, I was skiing, I was doing short turns, and another person was skiing at the same slope but fairly away from me, and was trying to do those big mountain turns. And somehow he leaned back too much and skied directly into me. I mean, that's a freak accident, right? I was skiing down, looking downward, right, trying to have a good, stable upper body position, and I just saw from my side view that something was coming in, and then he was already there, right? And yeah, it was pretty nasty, because it basically turned me around at 180 degrees, turned my knee to the outside. I fell forward onto my arm, and I ripped my biceps tendon out of my shoulder, and I ruined my knee. And The thing was that I had to first get my biceps tendon fixed up again so that I could walk with crutches before I could get the knee surgery. And as said, the accident was in March or April, and my final knee surgery was then in October, mid-October. Um, yeah, what is the takeaway there? Well, there is not much of a takeaway. Of course, you could say that is you shouldn't ski with other people at the same slope. But the person was also, I knew him, it was a friend of mine, is also in the mountain guide exam. He's a good skier, right? He's a solid skier. We skied a lot together that winter. So this was really not a concern, right? If you always do a slope one after the other, even if you don't have any avalanche risks, which we didn't have there, then I mean, everything takes forever and you're out there also to have fun, right? And it was really a big slope. Yeah, it was just a freak accident, right? I mean, imagining that we had exactly both the same speed so that we could basically converge at one point is, yeah, usually something like that shouldn't happen. Well, it happened to me. Um, the result was me walking on crutches and having to go to rehab for my knee, etc. I still have to be careful with my shoulder. I was recently in the climbing gym and I felt that this was still not super nice. So yeah, that's the second accident. And I think that's the one that had the biggest impact on my life, although it was definitely not the bloodiest of all of them. Okay, let's get to the third accident. And I fair warning, this is where the gory and bloody pictures will come in, and not only pictures. So we were dry tooling. Dry tooling means that you use ice tools, preferably with a specific pick here in front. It's actually this one, and you climb rock with it. It's a super nice training because you get super strong. It's a great preparation, especially in November when you can't do a lot of other stuff. Um, and you can really build up the ice climbing strength that you will need for the ice season. That said, dry tooling, if we go, it's generally a fairly safe thing. So we're not dry tooling on tread routes. In Switzerland, a lot of the dry tooling routes can be very hard, but they are usually bolted. You can even climb a lot of them top rope, and it's not a big issue. But of course, always an issue is holds breaking. And this is what happened to me. Now, to give you an impression how it looks if a hold breaks, right? I have a video of an acquaintance of ours that I took where you can actually see a hold breaking while he's dry tooling, and I will show you that right now. Okay, so here you can see him climbing, and this is where the hold breaks. The same thing happened to me. Um, you could think that I learned from the fall and ice climbing to keep these things away from my face. Um, Now, what I did, um, and maybe also to say this, dry tooling can be pretty athletic, right? So you have long pulls. And what I tried to do is basically to choke up on my ice tool. You can see I have them in my hands at the ordinary holds right now. But what you can do to extend your holds is that you put one of the tools into your hand, then you choke up with the other hand, and then transition the tool, and then you're higher up here and can reach to the next hold with that one. And that's actually what I try to do, right? You want to block out that hand, and you can already see where this is going in terms of the height of the tool, right? And then you try to reach the next hold. Now, The hold was perfectly fine a few times when we climbed on that route. There are different routes in the same sector, but what you have to keep in mind is if you hold on the lower part of the ice tool, you have a different angle of force onto the hold compared to the if you choke up here, right? If you choke up here, it's more likely that you slightly put force like that, right? You try not to do, but I mean, it happens super quickly, right? And yeah, then this one went off. I was actually wearing a helmet, but I managed to hit myself with the upper part of the ice axe right below my helmet between my eyes. Next thing I remember is that I was bleeding profusely. I will show you some pictures now. So you can see there I'm back on the ground. There is quite a bit of blood. Of course, we're exercising, so high pulls and stuff. But there was quite a bit of blood. I will also show you a small video of the ground. You can see there are blood stains all over the place. And that was the third accident. So again, I hit myself with an ice tool. What could I have done differently? Well, definitely staying further away from the ice tool, right? I mean, worst case, not making the move, right? If I have to really pull up until here. Um, but definitely also being more careful with how I grab my ice tool. Now, that being said, a lot of other people climbed that route and something like that can happen, right? So the first accident was clearly a technical mistake. Don't move your feet, or at least don't turn them. Um, the second one, I would say that was a freak accident that was really hard to avoid. And the third one, yes, you could have avoided it, of course, but you can avoid anything if you don't do anything, right? So I feel that this was still within the realm of acceptable what I did there, and it was also just a little bit of bad luck that that hold broke. As a takeaway, have a first aid kit with you. Um, Try to stay safe out there. As you saw with the second accident, sometimes even if you have partners who are really strong, I mean, it's always possible that something happens. I hope this video was interesting to you, seeing how I got hurt. Um, Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. Please leave us a like. If you didn't do so, follow the channel. I'm generally posting an outdoor related video every Monday. And from time to time, I'm doing a little bit more culture philosophy on Thursday. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.